So many people just don't realize the process and the time and the just the thinking it takes to create one piece of art, regardless of the medium that it's in, right? So I think that it's great for the community at large to have a better appreciation for what artists and artisans do.
I hear often from people who are visiting, they go, "My God, we had no idea there were so many artists in this area, and the quality is great. We're happy. We're going to tell our friends." So it's really a discovery for the people that come and do the trail.
From NCPR, welcome to Northwards. People, ideas, and conversations from and about Northern New York, Vermont, and beyond. I'm Mitch Teich.
Support for the Northwards podcast comes from the J.C. Steinecker and M.E. McDonald Charitable Fund at Adirondack Community Foundation in support of the Adirondack Community Foundation, building stronger Adirondack communities. Chainsaw juggling. Is that what you want to talk about?
For fun and profit.
It's safe and fun for the whole family.
And a good way to be employed for a short period of time at your local county fair.
Mitch, what's up?
Hey, Ethan. Ethan Shanty produces Northwards for us, and he joins us in the studio before our interview conversations to do a conversation of our own. Ethan, when you were a young person, or younger than you are now,
I was gonna take some issue with that. I'm
you're a
still
young
young.
man, yeah.
I'm youngish.
And you would go to events with friends of yours, or band concerts, or whatever it was that you did when you were in your scholastic era.
What are you driving at?
Did you go to did you go out for pizza afterwards? Did you? Was there a restaurant was there a place that you would go to kind of hang out after the event was over?
Usually when I was a teenager, by the time our concerts got over, all the restaurants in Norwood were closed. But on the rare occasion that we had like a matinee show, we would often go down to the Hometown Cafe. Big fan of their hot turkey sandwiches. And then when I was in college, afterward, the thing to do would be to go to Little Italy in downtown Potsdam.
There you
go.
go.
Still my favorite pizza place in the North Country.
So I was thinking about this equation because I grew up in the suburbs,
Right.
And so there were a lot of places that were still open after we would have a jazz band concert in high school or what have you. And I'm ashamed in some ways to say that we frequently went to one of our local Pizza Huts, and
no
I'll
shame
say
in that.
no, and frankly, when you're a junior or senior in high school, it's kind of something you can afford, and
You're right.
so a group of 5 or 6 people gathering, all jamming themselves into a booth and eating Pizza Hut pizza. There is no shame in that. But the other place we would go to, actually, in this suburb in Maryland where I grew up, was a place called the Stained Glass Pub.
It's a good name.
It is a good name. It's a pizza place.
Okay.
I guess if I had stuck around longer, I probably would have taken advantage of the pub form of it. But
Right. Pizza is just fine, though.
yeah, and the thing about it is, and I haven't been back in a while, but I grew up in the '80s, and I grew up in this fairly generic suburb. I mean, it was a perfectly nice place to grow up.
Listen, I've seen a lot of 80s movies, and a lot of hijinks happen in the suburbs.
Yes, many hijinks. But there's not a lot to distinguish this one suburb from a million other suburbs in the D.C. area or really anywhere. I mean,
They all have Pizza
It could
Huts.
be a John Hughes movie suburb
Yeah.
If John Hughes had grown up in the D.C. area. And the crazy thing about the place where I grew up is if you go back there now, there are so few remnants of what was there when I grew up that it's almost unrecognizable. But I believe the Stained Glass Pub is still there.
Now,
I say this based on the fact that I think I went there 15 years ago at this point.
so by the very nature of believing, it does exist, whether or not it actually exists in reality.
Do I have to get on my phone while we're talking?
I'm going to tell you this.
Little Italy still exists.
Little Italy still exists. The Hometown Diner still exists. The place that does not exist, that was a spot that we would frequent after band concerts, whether that was jazz band or our ensemble, we would go to this place called Nin's on the Hill in Norfolk, and they always served incredible ice cream. It's no longer the building is still there. It became a cafe, and now I believe that someone just lives there. But it was the place that we always went for my brother's favorite ice cream, which is Dinosaur Crunch, which is like this. Like,
I thought dinosaurs were an endangered species.
We hunted them to extinction.
This isn't one of those ice creams that's like neon blue.
It is.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, it is. I don't even know what the flavor is really. There's some white and there's some blue and there's some chunky stuff that I believe were marshmallows. And I've tried to track this down, and it's served at a couple of ice cream parlors around the country. But what I was really trying to do is see if I could get a company to overnight like a gallon or a tub of
Dinosaur Crunch
to surprise my brother, but to no avail.
I think there are places that sell it as Superman Crunch also. There was a place in the Milwaukee area. It sounds very much like a flavor. I don't remember whether it was Superman Crunch or Superman something else, but it sounds very similar.
Ooh, I'll Google that.
Yeah. I would tell you the name of the ice cream place, but I can't remember it.
That's okay. I really am a big fan of restaurants like that are situated in unexpected places. Like there's this place out in Phoenix, Arizona that I love. It's my favorite Mexican joint in the whole world. It's called Taco Guild. And there's stained glass windows in there because it used to be a church and it was converted into this Mexican restaurant. Fantastic. Best tacos I've ever had in my life. It's where I had duck for the first time. It's where I had bone marrow for the first time.
Bone marrow tacos?
Not bone marrow tacos.
Oh, okay.
Just bone marrow. They brought you out this like steaming platter with half a bone like sawed through. And
I'm sorry. That does not sound great to me so far.
You know.
Did they give you a straw or what?
So there's the bone, and then there's some crostini, and then there's a couple of some other accoutrement that you can place on it. But mostly, you've never had it, obviously.
No.
It just tastes like liquefied fat, which is like, that's a good flavor. But
people for whom fat is too crunchy for them, why not go bone marrow?
It was pretty good. I don't think I would eat it again, and I turned down their offer to do a shot of tequila out of the bone trough. Anyway, so we're talking about stained glass today, right?
Yeah, what a coincidence. One of the people we're talking with on today's episode of Northwards is a woman named Carolyn Wilcox, who has a really interesting story about her journey to becoming a stained glass artist in the Village of Hope, which is down southern Adirondacks, Sacandaga River Valley.
Okay.
And we also talk with John Van Alstine, who had a similarly interesting journey to becoming a sculptor of some renown. He spent a little while in his early days as a skier at St. Lawrence University, but then, as you'll hear, went on to other things. And the two of them are not only artists in the Sacandaga Valley, but they're also part of something coming up in that region called the Art Trail. You've heard of, some places do an art walk where there are, galleries that open themselves up to the public and let people kind of come in and check out how the art is done on a Friday night or whatever. Because we're talking about some pretty small places, instead of having a single art walk in a single village, this is an art trail that takes place over the course of a weekend and covers many miles of the southern Adirondacks. And so we're going to hear a little bit about both the two artists that we talk with and how the art trail came to be. So joining us by Zoom, it's Carolyn Wilcox and John Van Alstine. Thank you both so much.
Well, thanks for your interest, and thanks for inviting us.
So I wanted to make this a two-part conversation. Before we get to the specifics of the art trail, I wanted to ask each of you about another trail, your own interesting journeys to the art that you do. And I wanted to start with Carolyn Wilcox because I'm amazed at this career progression. How did you go how did you happen to go from being in the Air Force, a career in the Air Force, to a career to making stained glass?
I had always loved art when I was younger, but I joined the Air Force when I was 18, and I retired when I was 38, 39. And after that, I just really wanted to find my artistic outlet. So I tried a lot of different things. I did everything from polymer clay to dried flower arrangements and stuff like that. And my husband at the time happened to be stationed at Hanscom Air Force Base, and off base there was a stained glass shop, and they were giving classes. And I took one class and I was hooked. And about 10 years ago, I moved back to Northville, which is where I grew up, and really sort of found inspiration, I guess, for what I do now in nature. Most of the pieces that I create are inspired by nature in one shape or another. So I really am very comfortable creating in this environment.
What did you do in the Air Force?
Nuclear treaty monitoring. Not very artistic.
that was going to be my next question. I assumed there was not some branch of the Air Force that specialized in stained glass or anything especially artistic. But did you find is the art you do in some way, I don't want to say a reaction, but an outlet from what sounds like it could very well have been a stressful bunch of years in the service?
I loved that job, actually, but the things that help me out now is it was a very technical career. In creating stained glass, there are definitely technical aspects to it. So I get the artistic side, but I am kind of a science geek. So I like delving into how to do things better. Solder, melting points, and all that kind of stuff. I'm totally into that too. So,
well, so then stained glass really does marry the kind of two halves of your brain.
It does. It does, definitely.
How cool. John Van Alstine, if memory serves, it was a moment of happenstance at St. Lawrence University that started you on the creative path that kind of shaped the rest of your life?
Yes, in fact, it's interesting. It goes through St. Lawrence in a couple ways. In high school, I went to Johnstown High School in Southern Adirondacks here, and I was a jock. I was a skier, a champion skier, and I got invited to come to St. Lawrence, a small little scholarship, and I skied with them for the first year, but I realized that skiing and athletics in college were quite a commitment. And also at the time, I had a girlfriend who was in theater over in Potsdam, and I went over there a lot to watch the rehearsals. And while I was there, I kind of meandered around the art buildings and saw amazing studios, or at least it seemed to me amazing studios that SUNY Potsdam had. And I got interested in art, started with Guy Berard, who's still there, does his jazz show. In fact, I've communicated with him a few times this year with my new book, and it got started. I spent 2 years there, realizing that St. Lawrence, a great school, but not really an art school. I went on to Kent State and got my BFA there, and in fact was just invited back last year, 2 years ago, and they awarded me the Creative Alumni Award for 2024, I guess it was. Anyway, and then on to Cornell, where I did my graduate work. Left there, got a teaching job right out at University of Wyoming in Laramie. Spent 4 years there. That was an amazing adventure with the different geology, so different than growing up here in upstate New York. And then circled back and was teaching at University of Maryland, College Park, was in some big shows. But the key was, or a key, in 1986, I think it was, 85, I was invited back to Yaddo from Jersey City, where my studio was. And that reawakened my interest in the Adirondacks. And I was invited in 86 to give a talk and a show at St. Lawrence. And on the way up, driving up Route 30, just past Hope, I saw this amazing property for sale. Well, it wasn't so amazing then. It was big and had lots of buildings and was totally overgrown. And it turned out that was what I purchased. And we've been working on it since 1987.
In that same way that Carolyn was describing her interest in science and how it may very well feed what she's been able to accomplish in stained glass. Is there something that working with the materials that you do, John, taps into in a broader sense and speaks to who you are and the way your mind works?
Well, the landscape for sure here, and our property is right here on the Sacandaga River, so we're tuned into the river. We do a lot of kayaking, and one of the things, or one of the series that I've worked on, are these vessel forms. In fact, the Adirondack Museum experience just exhibited one this in their last show, or the show that's up currently, Artists and Inspiration. But those forms and the forms of those vessels, like the guide boats that you see so wonderfully displayed at the Adirondack Museum experience, have influenced my work in a way that not only with the amazing shapes and forms and craftsmanship, but the more symbolic or metaphoric ideas of a passage or a container of the soul or of a group of people. And I did a whole series during COVID called Praxis Awry. Praxis is a constellation in the southern hemisphere, which is the mariner's compass. And if your ship's compass is awry, your boat, your ship, your vessel, your country kind of goes off where it's not supposed to be. And that's the way I was feeling during COVID, and it produced a great series of works for me.
Carolyn, why is glass and stained glass in particular such a good way to channel your view of nature?
I can look at a piece of glass, even if it's just a sheet of stained glass, and it looks different at different angles, at different light coming through it. Depending on the piece of glass, if you have different colors, it's just, to me, it reflects, no pun intended, nature. You look outside and you see a tree and it looks different with the light coming through it, or, depending on what time of day it is. I also create with a little bit of whimsy, I think. And for me, it just, I see things every day that I want to put into what I create. Yeah, it helps a great deal living here and being able to create in this environment.
Maybe this is just my my view of the artistic life, but it seems like a pretty solitary one, or it can be a solitary one. The image of the artist is the person working in his or her studio and creating. So why is it important to be connected with a network, that not just the two of you, but a broader network of artists in the region?
So for me, it's I can get inspiration from other artists and what they do also. It was a real surprise to me when I moved back here, because I graduated from Northville in '85, and I moved back in 2014. I was really surprised at the vibrant arts community that's just in upstate New York, but specifically the Sacandaga area. And I love communicating with other artists and just seeing what they do. And what I create may not at all look like what they do, but something that they did sparks something, and I think that that's good to have. We pass along information to each other. You might have a client who's looking for a table, and an artisan or an artist who does that sort of thing, and it's good to have that kind of network and help each other out, because as you said, it can be isolating.
So my impression is not entirely wrong.
Great. Well, and me specifically, I'm also in several volunteer groups. I'm on the Northville School Board, and I'm also with the Sacandaga Valley Arts Network. So that helps keep me engaged too. So,
John, what is that? What do the other artists in the region mean to what you do?
Well, first of all, I should say we do work alone here, and I work with my wife, Caroline Rommersdorfer, who's also an interesting and important sculptor. We do our work separately, but we help each other out, and we feel like we're never alone because we're always listening to North Country Public Radio. It's our connection to the world. But relative to your question and the other artists in this valley. There's so many things that SVAN does, not just visual artists, but they have concerts and all kinds of other things. So it's a real active group. and I remember when they were first starting, gosh, this was way back in maybe 1998, 99. They came to us at that time saying we would love to do an exhibit. And so we did an exhibit with some of the members. Barney Bellinger was one, Connie Dodge still with us, Ann Miller, painter, Jonathan Sweet, Judith Plotner, who does fiber arts, and we have a big gallery space. So we were able to do this great show, and we thought, wow, this is amazing here. Let's do it again and again. And we did it a few more years. And then, in a sort of way, we got a little bit selfish, and then we decided, well, we were going to have an open studio. In other words, open our studios up to the public and put up our work. And we've been doing it since. With the exception of, I think it was 2020, because of COVID, we had to postpone or delay. So, yeah, it's been an amazing experience with all the artists here.
Well, and so I gather for 10 years there's been this concerted effort to draw people in to kind of, I don't know, studio hop, if that's the best way to put it,
Yeah.
or at least
Yeah.
put together an itinerary of visiting multiple studios in the region. Why has that been such an important part of SFON and in the work that you do?
It's a way to concentrate the public and the collectors' energy for one weekend, get them out, and as an organization, or as the artists being organized, to receive them. And Caroline Romersdorfer and I are the most northern on the sort of map. So oftentimes people start here, which is wonderful for us because they're very fresh, and they spend time here, and then they take off and visit the other artists. The one sort of awkward thing, I guess, for artists is that during open studio, we're here in our studios dealing and entertaining or introducing our work to the collectors, but we don't get to see the other artists' work. So it's a little bit frustrating. But anyway, it's a great experience. 10 years and counting. And Caroline Wilcox has done a great job organizing and shepherding this along for so many years, and we thank you for that.
Has it evolved in those 10 years?
Yeah. So what we're doing this year, especially for the 10th anniversary, is we're having a whole weekend of Art Trails celebration. And I think that the networking and the recognition that we've gotten in previous years has really helped us along here. So this year, we're adding, of course, John's book signing on Friday the 15th, which is at 5:30 at the Northville Library. We also put in an Art Trails exhibit at the Library Gallery in Northville, and we haven't done that before. But I think that that's definitely, after seeing it all in place, that's definitely something that will continue in the years to come. It was pretty easy to do, and the artists really wanted to do it, and it really looks great. And it makes it easier for people who maybe can't see everything on the trail, because it's a long trail to do in 2 days. To get there in one spot and see some of the art from multiple artists. The artists do most of the work on Art Trails, right? Because it's a self-guided tour, a lot of the work that would be at a normal art festival or anything like that, as far as organizing goes, isn't needed. So our biggest thing that SFON does is advertising. And that's evolved over the years, because what we've done the past few years, because we do receive a grant from Saratoga Arts, we receive the community re-grant program grant through Saratoga Arts. And so we keep track of the number of patrons that we get, and we ask them where they're from, how they heard about it, how many's in their party, that kind of thing. And it's really helped us to sort of focus our advertising and help artists on the trail who maybe weren't getting as many visitors, help them over the years get more visitors. So we've seen a lot of improvements over the years, just because we're tracking who comes now.
Well, yeah. So do you have a sense for how many people take advantage of this, and how far they come from?
Yeah, so we've had people from other states. We've had people get lodging for the weekend from especially the neighboring states, Connecticut, New Hampshire, stuff like that. There's a lot of people from outside of our region, so downstate a bit. People will travel up for the weekend. I think we get about 700 people, which is great. I know John gets a great number of people, and I am fortunate that I am number 3 on the map. So I'm the next one on the trail below John and Caroline. But I've had as many as 170 people come through my workshop in a weekend. And that's just, I mean, you see numbers like that at a festival, certainly more than that, but having people in your workshop, it's exhilarating, really. So
I was going to ask if it was nerve-wracking, but exhilarating sounds like a
it
better
is
adjective.
nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking too, but for me personally, I really love this is my favorite event of the year. I love talking to the people who come here and explaining how I create stained glass panels. It's really it's fun for me, and I hope that it's fun for them. So
John, you and Caroline welcome people into your studio from time to time throughout the year. Is there something different about having so many people in a kind of a concentrated weekend?
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, parking is an issue sometimes. There's so many cars, although we have a great open space for parking. It does get crazy though. There's so many people. You feel like the groom at a wedding or something, or the bride when you're trying to talk to so many people. People have questions, and there might even be that person that wants to buy something. So you want to make sure you're paying attention. But one of the best things that is changed in the last few years, I guess, is the art trails used to be one day. It was Saturday, and people loved it. They told their friends, but it was done. So now it's Saturday and Sunday, and we find the people that come on Sunday often hear from the people that were there Saturday. So that's really been helpful.
I've been familiar over the years. A number of places that I've lived have had regular Friday art walks, for example, and I've heard about similar events to the art trail in other places. But the question I guess I wonder about is what's the lasting impacts on the art community from either a day or a weekend like this? What do you hope the impact of all of these people touring studios and visiting the region is when the art trail is in the rearview mirror for another year?
I think there's so many lasting impacts. I think one of them is just having an appreciation. So buyers of art or people who just appreciate art have a better appreciation of how it's created. Because I think so many people just don't realize the process and the time and the just the thinking it takes to create one piece of art, regardless of the medium that it's in, right? So I think that it's great for the community at large to have a better appreciation for what artists and artisans do. I think it's good for the economy in our local areas. I think that it brings people to our little villages and towns that wouldn't normally come and will come again because they discover other things there. And I think it has impact on the artists a great deal because it gets them potentially future business or even just interest down the road. So I think it's a really good event and different from a walk because our studios are so far apart. You couldn't call it a walk, that's for sure.
Yeah, and from my point of view, it's just I hear often from people who are visiting, they go, "My God, we had no idea there were so many artists in this area, and the quality is great. We're happy. We're going to tell our friends." So it's really a discovery for the people that come and do the trail. And it's great for the artists, obviously. They get some publicity. We always get some sales and maybe some commissions out of it. And I think everybody, it's a win-win.
You both had beginnings in the region and then went away. Do you think the act of going away ties you more strongly to the place that you came back to?
I think so for me. You appreciate when I left here, I thought I got to get out of this small little area. There's bigger horizons, and I did. And then when I came back, I was said, well, gee, why was I in such a hurry to get away? This is an amazing place. And it's so inspirational in terms of the landscape, the rivers, the forests, whatever. And it really informs my work. So, yeah. So I think moving away gives you a perspective on what you have at home.
And for me, frankly, I was so young when I moved away, and then I came back 30 years later. And that's a whole life I've lived away from here. And I bring that different perspective here. And I feel like a much better appreciation, as John said, for what was here when I moved back. And yeah, it became my main inspiration in what I do, definitely.
Well, Carolyn Wilcox, John Van Alstine, thank you both so much. Best of luck with this year's art trail, and let's all talk again sometime.
Thank you for your interest.
John Van Alstine is a sculptor who works out of his studio in Wells, New York. Carolyn Wilcox is a stained glass artist and former Air Force veteran who does her work from her studio in Hope. We talked with both of them ahead of an art trail event that takes place in the southern Adirondacks. You can find out more about it at ncpr.org/northwards.
The first and only time I've ever participated in one of those like art trails was when the St. Lawrence County Arts Council held their annual artist studio tour. And I was planning on going to a bunch of them. And I started with my friend Dean's studio, where he builds guitars and guitar pedals. The guitars are some of the most beautiful pieces of work that I've ever played before. And the reason that I started and ended with Dean's studio is because while I was holding and playing one of his baritone guitars, which is a little bit heavier than your average guitar.
Is this a you break it, you bought it story?
No, I didn't break anything in his shop. What I did is throw out my own back. While I'm...
Wow, that is a heavy guitar.
It really was. And, like I've played guitar my entire life and have never injured myself doing... I've been injured at shows. I've been headbutted in the teeth, but never caused myself any injury just by the very nature of like holding and playing an instrument. So that was my one and only artist studio tour experience.
And that is why Dean makes everyone sign a waiver when they come into the studio now.
That's true.
The other thing I will mention is you can get a little sneak peek. We have pictures of the inside of both John Van Alstine and Carolyn Wilcox's studios at ncpr.org/northwards, along with a link to the map of the whole art trail. Ethan, tell us who produces this show.
Northwards is an NCPR podcast production. The show is written, produced, and edited by Mitch Teich, with digital production supervision by me. I'm Ethan Shanty. Caitlin Kelly is our social media manager. Bill Hanel is our director of digital services, and Doyle Dean is our production manager. To listen to past conversations and support the show, you can head to ncpr.org/northwards. This is NCPR, North Country Public Radio.